This is Known Podcast, hosted by Dustin Bennett, the lead pastor of Known Victory Church in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Known Podcast is dedicated to helping you grow closer to Jesus, unleashing the power of your creativity, and developing you as a leader. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Well, welcome back, Known Podcast again. So excited for another episode today, Season 2, Episode 3, and I just can't wait for today's episode. I'm really excited about some of the things that I've been learning, and I'm excited to share them with you. And again, one of the things that we truly believe here at Known Podcast, one of the things that I truly believe is that each and every single one of us are leaders. Every single person listening to this is a leader. Every single person in your family, in your business, in your church, at school, whatever, you are all leaders. And I truly believe that it doesn't matter your title, it doesn't matter your position, you are a leader. That is who you are. It's built into your DNA. You are a leader. You lead your family, you lead your small group, you lead yourself, you lead your teams, you lead your business, you lead your church, you lead your boss, you lead your spouse, you lead your coworkers, you lead your classmates, you lead your teachers. You are a leader. No matter where you are, no matter at what point of life you are, whether you're in school, whether you have a career, whatever it is, you are a leader. And not all leadership, it's interesting, when you think about leadership, not all leadership is leading people below you or in a different, under you in position, but leadership is also leading the people beside you, leading the people in front of you, leading the people above you. We have to learn how to lead in a circle, learn how to lead down, lead up, and lead to the side. And I think, again, each and every single one of us are leaders, every one of us. And so today I want to go through 5 postures that great leaders have. Great leaders have these 5 postures. As I've looked at it, as I've looked at some of the leaders that I look up to the most, as I've looked at my own life, as I've looked at leadership, I know that there's more, but these are 5 postures that I think if we can learn how to have these postures in our own hearts, if we can learn how to have these postures towards the people that we lead, if we can learn how to have these postures towards ourselves, I really believe that we're going to actually just grow exponentially as leaders. We're going to be able to get better as leaders. And as we go through these 5 postures today, I want to encourage you to even just ask yourself, how am I right now when it comes to this in my own leadership? Where am I when it comes to this in my family or at school or at work? How am I doing this to the people that God has entrusted to me? And then I want to encourage you, as you figured, okay, where am I? Then I want to encourage you to find a way that you can actually get better at this week, how you can get better at this at home, whatever. And so I want to encourage you, again, where are you when it comes to this posture? And then what can you do right now in order to make this posture more of a reality or help yourself grow in this posture? So I want to go through the first posture that I see that great leaders have is a desire to love first. That as great leaders, if we want to be great, if we want to lead well, if we want to build something beautiful, the biggest trait, the biggest quality, the greatest posture, and our primary responsibility as leaders is to love people, to love the people that are on our teams, to love the people that are in our families, to love the people that we surround ourselves with. That is the primary responsibility of a leader, is to love people. And it's what we need to do, because not leaders that don't love only carry a title, they don't carry a following. They might have the title of pastor or CEO or father or mother or whatever, but if they don't love, they're only carrying a title, they're not carrying a following. And if we want to actually build something that's going to outlast us, if we want to build something that's actually going to go farther than us, that even long after we're gone, what we've built is continuing to grow and continuing to improve as we pass it on to the next generations. If we want that to happen, we have to be people who love first. Learning to love the people around us is so key to build trust. It's key to build responsibility. It's key to build camaraderie within our teams, within our families, is learning how to love and also teaching how to love. How do we love well enough so that people can learn from us and love well? One of the primary responsibility of leaders is a desire to love first. The best thing that we can do to build great teams is to teach our people, teach our family, teach our congregation, teach our employees to love each other deeply. And I think you've probably seen this before and might even know what your love language is, but there are 5 love languages that have come out over time. And these are the 5. Number 1 is words of affirmation. Number 2, acts of service. Number 3 is receiving gifts. Number 4, quality time. And lastly, physical touch. And I think all of us, we have ways that we experience love, and we also have ways that we show love. We all have these things. You might show love through words of affirmation, where you go and you're an encourager and you just speak life and you just tell people how amazing they are. You know, you love to affirm people, but it might hit closed ears, these words of affirmation, because they actually received love differently than you're showing it. So sometimes we think we're loving our team. Sometimes we think we're loving our spouse. Sometimes we think we're loving our kids. Yet the way we're showing them love is not a way that they genuinely feel loved by us. So we could be such people of affirmation, or people who love to just spend time with people. But if the people that we're loving and the people around us aren't experiencing love that way, then we're actually not loving well. We're actually just loving in the way that's easy for us, or maybe the way that's comfortable for us. And we need to learn how to love our teams in the way that they experience love the most. You know, you might have a child whose love language is physical touch, and you refusing to hug them and cuddle them could make them feel as if you don't love them, because that's maybe how they feel love. But for you, it's like, no, I'm all about quality time. Don't hug me. Don't touch me. That's just the way that you are. But I want to encourage you that if we want to love our kids well, we need to learn how they experience love the best and learn how to show them love in that way. You know, you might have a coworker whose love language is quality time, and any encouragements coming from you in the office might mean nothing to them. But as soon as you take them out for lunch, or as soon as you take them out for coffee and have a conversation where you sit down and you just speak life into them, they might feel loved because you're actually taking time out of your day to spend time with them. And that's how they feel the most loved. The best ways to love people are not the ways you feel loved, but the best ways to show love are how they feel love. So we have to learn as leaders, as parents, as spouses, as CEOs, whatever your title is, we have to learn how the people around us in our circles experience love the most. And how do we do this? Well, number 1, you can ask, like how do you feel loved the most? What can I do to make you know that we care about you, that we believe in you? What can you need? The other way is just to try it. You know, start encouraging people, and if they just don't seem to, be taking it, or it doesn't seem anything, you might want to learn. Okay, acts of service. How can I serve you? How can I, do the dishes for you? Or maybe I'll do some of the work that you need to do, whatever. And then if that doesn't work, you might want to try, giving them a gift. Like, hey, I bought you this coffee and I just wanted to give it to you, tell you I care about you and I appreciate you. It might be quality time. It might be taking them out for a meal. It might be inviting them over to your home for a meal. And it might be physical touch. It might just be a handshake or a pat on the back or a hug. Whatever it is, I think we need to try these things. We need to try loving people this way and see how it goes, see how they respond to it. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to learn how people feel loved and show them that love. Again, you might show people words of affirmation or whatever, but you need to learn what they need. Great leaders are acutely aware of what the people around them need, and they're willing to sacrifice their own comfort in order to love them well. As leaders, we need to understand that production comes secondary to people. Production is important, right? If you want to have a good business, there has to be productivity, there has to be camaraderie, there has to be these things. But if you care more about your product, if you care more about what you're building than you care about the people building it, it's not going to last very long, because your turnover rates are going to be so high, because they don't feel cared for in your organization. They don't feel cared for in your family. And you see this in relationships all the time, is that we care more about the product we're building, the family or the home or whatever, than we care about the people that we actually put in the home. And I want to encourage you as leaders, when it comes to love, great leaders have this ability to love people well. They have this ability to love people first, and they care more about the people than the production. That doesn't mean we don't care about the product. It doesn't mean we don't care about production, but what we care about more is the people who are building it, more than we care about what they're building. So that's number 1. Great leaders have a desire to love first. Number 2 is great leaders have a heart to serve. The greatest leaders that I've ever been under, the greatest bosses, the best leaders I've ever had, their entire life was dedicated to serving people well, to serving me well. And they did this by knowing what it was that I needed. Maybe it's how to love me properly. And then they went out of their way to make sure that they did that. They went out of their way to make sure that I was loved. They went out of their way to make sure that I was cared for. They went out of their way to take care of me and meet the needs not only of me, but of my family. We serve best by knowing our people. We serve best by knowing the people that God has entrusted to us, that we realize they're not just cogs in a machine, that they're not just another face in the assembly line. They're just not another one of our children. They matter to where we're going. They matter in the future. They are important. And how do we show people that they're important? We know what they need, and we give them space, and we create space to meet their deepest needs right where they are. You know, the people that we serve, the people on our teams, the people in our families are human beings with real needs. They're people with real emotions and real families. Do you know the people that you need? Do you know your children? Do you know your spouse? Do you know your boss? Do you know your coworkers? Do you know the people that you're surrounding yourself with? The best way to serve them really is to know them. To know when they're having a bad day, to know when they're down, to know when something happened at work or something happened at home that is causing them to struggle. Maybe your kid's struggling at school, whatever it is. Our job as leaders is to serve them in their deepest need, to actually care, not just say, I'm going to serve you because I have to. We care about them so deeply that we want to serve them. We want to make sure that their families are okay, that when they come to work, that we don't just care about the job they're doing, we care about where they're going home to. We care about how their husband's doing. We care about how their children are doing. We care about their grandmother who's in the hospital. Do you know the needs of your people? And then also, does your family, does your coworkers, does your boss know you, trust you enough to actually share what they need? Does the people around you in your circle that's entrusted to you, do you know that they trust you? Do they trust you enough to share their struggle? Do they trust you enough to share what they're going through so that way you can actually be a part of meeting their needs? We have to build trust, which comes from love first. As soon as we start to love somebody, they start to trust us, and then they'll start to tell us what they need. And then our goal as leaders is to go and meet those needs, to do whatever we can to serve the people as best as we can. And sometimes the needs aren't financial. Sometimes the needs aren't health. Sometimes the needs are relational. Sometimes the needs are spiritual. Sometimes the needs are just somebody to sit with. Like it might not mean that you have to go give some money. It might not mean that you have to go visit somebody in the hospital, but it might mean, hey, I know that you've been working so hard for us, and what we want to do to honor you is we want to give you a day off, and we're just going to pay you. We're going to pay you your full day as if you worked. We just want to pay you to tell you that we love you, that we want to serve you because we know you've worked so hard on this project, or you've worked so hard on this job, that I want to encourage you, take this day, be with your family. You might even want to say, okay, you know what we did for your family? We actually bought you, West Edmonton Mall, or like water park tickets or amusement park tickets for your family to go to, or even go to the zoo. We want to send your family bowling, to say, hey, we care not just about you, we also care about your family. We want to make sure that we're serving the families of the people around us too, not just the people, but how do we serve their families well? The greatest leaders know and learn how to serve people well. Our job is to find the need of our people and meet those needs as best as we can. Maybe your child needs a hug because they just had an anxiety attack before an exam, and they think they may have failed the test. Your kid might not need you to grill them. Your kid might not need you to tell them that they should have studied harder. Your kid might just need you to sit there with them and love them and let them cry on your shoulder. What do the people around you need? Maybe does your wife need a day off? Does your wife, when you come home from work, does she just need to sit down, relax, turn on the TV? So rather than you coming home, kicking off the boots, putting your feet on the table and saying, what's for dinner? You go and you say, hey, I'm going to serve you as best as I can. I'm going to cook a meal. I'm going to clean the kitchen. I'm going to take out the vacuum. I'm going to vacuum the floor. I'm going to vacuum the beds. I'm going to vacuum it all because I love you and I want to serve you well. In relationships, whether it's marriage or whether it's parents and children or whether it's bosses bosses and employees, or whether it's coworkers, the greatest teams and the greatest relationships are built off a place where we're willing to serve each other. Because serving people is putting ourselves beneath them so that we can push them forward, so we can elevate them. That's what serving does, is it elevates other people. The best way to get the most out of your people, the best way to get the most out of your people is to serve them by giving them what they need to succeed. And so great leaders have a heart to serve. And number 3 is great leaders have the ability to encourage. You know what encourage means is encourage really means to put courage in, to actually carry courage and put it in people, to be people who motivate, to be people who speak life into people, who speak vision, who speak into the lives of people and bring courage in moments where they feel weak, in moments where they feel alone, in moments where there's doubt, in moments where there's fear. We come in as leaders, as friends, as brothers, as fathers, as mothers, as bosses, and we say, no, you can do it. I believe in you. I believe you can do this. Yes, maybe you failed here, but I believe that you're going to do it this time. I believe that you fell then, but I'm going to come alongside you. I'm going to carry you forward. Great leaders have the ability to encourage people well. The question is, who are you encouraging? Are you encouraging your children to have big dreams? Are you encouraging your children to have big aspirations? Are you encouraging your employees to actually have vision? Are you encouraging your employees that, maybe they made a mistake, but you say, hey, I believe you can do it this time. What can I do to help you be better? We as leaders are carriers of courage. We all go through times as humans where we struggle. We all go through times as human beings where life brings challenges. Times where we don't know if we can keep going. Times where we want to quit, where we want to give up, or we want to just say time out, like I'm done. We all have moments where we need people to encourage us. We all have failures. We all have trials. We all have these moments, and we need somebody to come alongside us and encourage us. And I think the greatest leaders have learned how to encourage well. If you want to be a great leader, if you want to lead your family well, you have to be a person who brings courage to them. You know, you might be a child in a family and your parents are struggling. You can be a carrier of courage in your home. You can be a person who brings courage wherever you go in school. Like, you are a carrier of courage. So carry it wherever you go. We need to be carriers of courage in the circles around us, the people around us. Your boss might need some encouragement after losing a big job to a bigger company, right? They lost this job. You might be a person as an employee to say, hey, and I believe that you can do this. I believe that you can go forward. I love this company. I love the vision. I love where we're going. I'm here for you, and we're going to go and we're going to get a bigger job. Like carry courage where you go. You know, your pastors might need some encouragement after they lost their baby due to a miscarriage, or your son might need some encouragement after he tried out for the basketball team and got cut because he was too small. As leaders, we bring courage with us. And what this means is that we have to put ourselves as leaders in a vulnerable place where we're willing to sit with people in their failure, where we're willing to sit with people in their trials, where we're willing to sit with people in their mistakes. Are you willing to sit with somebody in their hardest and darkest, weakest moment and build them up? That is what leaders do well. The greatest leaders are willing to be humble and sit with people in their brokenness and help them put the pieces back together by filling them with courage, filling them with excitement, filling them with vision, so that way they can go forward into the future and build something beautiful. We bring courage with us. When people leave your office or your child leaves your bedroom, they should always be encouraged, even after experiencing discipline, right? Punishment or discipline exists to teach us good behavior and to help us become better, right? That's the point of it. It's to teach us better behavior. It's to teach us to be more disciplined. It's to teach us to just be a better version of ourselves. Discipline isn't really about pain. Of course, pain is a byproduct. Pain is a byproduct of discipline. Pain is a byproduct of punishment. But the main point of discipline is to teach us to be better. So we can have a moment as parents where we're disciplining our children, but they can leave the room feeling so encouraged that they can be better. As leaders, we're carriers. As parents, we're carriers of courage, and we put courage into our children. People get better through discipline and encouragement, that they can do better and that they can be better. We encourage them that, hey, just because you failed doesn't mean you're a failure. Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you are a mistake. We are carriers of courage, and we tell people you can do better and you can be better. So again, great leaders have the ability to encourage. Number 4, great leaders are always learning. One of the greatest postures of a leader is learning. And I'm sure you've heard the saying before, leaders are learners, and it's just so true. Leaders are learners. As leaders, we will never make it to the pinnacle of leadership. We will never get to a place where we have gathered all the information in the planet. We're never going to get to a place where we have all the skills, we have all the insights, we have all the wisdom, we have all the discernment to be a perfect leader. We're never going to get to that point, because when we stop learning, we put a cap on our abilities and we put a cap on our capacity. Right? So if we've only learned to this point, this is as high as we're going to go. And we're wondering why our business isn't growing, why our church isn't growing, why our kids aren't learning, why our employees don't want to work here. We're wondering why, and it's because we capped ourselves. And what we do as leaders is, as we learn, we raise the capacity of our leadership. We raise our ability, we raise our skills, we raise it all so that way we can do more, so that we can go forward. We have to not stop learning as leaders. And learning isn't always easy. It often isn't easy, right? Learning is often very painful. Why? Because oftentimes we learn the most when we're in the most pain. We learn the most when we're the most broke. We learn the most when we make our biggest mistake. We learn the most oftentimes through failure. And so failure is not fun. I've never met somebody who says, I love failing. We don't like to fail, but failing is where we learn the most, because growth isn't easy, because it's often pressure that causes growth. Pressure on our business, pressure on our church, pressure on our family that will either bring us together or it'll tear us apart. And so learning is not always easy in growth, but the reality is this, is that growth pains are temporary. But growth is forever, right? You're going to go through a moment or a season or a time where you're growing and it's painful and it's hard and you're learning and you're tired and you're exhausted, and that's temporary. But the learning you do, the growth you get during that season under that pressure is going to last forever. It's going to last the rest of your life. What you learn in your hardest moments lasts forever. That pain is so temporary, but if you look outside of it, you're going to see all the growth, everything you've learned, the beauty of what you've done. And that's the beauty of learning, and the beauty of growth is, yes, it's painful, but it's also powerful. It's painful, but it's powerful. It causes us a lot of pain, but it helps us become the better versions of ourselves, the best leader, the best spouse, the best parent that we can be. We need to be learners as leaders. And not all learning is painful, right? Not all of it's painful. Some learning is enjoyable. You might have a skill that you want to grow in and that you're super passionate about. It might be something like photography, or, something that you're passionate about that fuels you, music, or, art, or like reading or sports. And you might be like, I want to get better at basketball, or I want to get better at piano, or I want to get better at guitar. It might be learning a different language, and it might be something that you're passionate about, something that you love. So not all learning is painful. Not all learning is painful. Sometimes as we learn, right, always as we learn, we will get better. And when we get better, our product becomes better. The greatest leaders, the greatest athletes, the greatest politicians, the greatest pastors, the greatest CEOs and parents and children, and the greatest people are always learning. They never get to a point where they think they've made it. They never get to a point where they think that they've reached their capacity. They say, I'm always going to learn. I'm always going to get better, because we're never going to make it as leaders. And so we need to always be learning. The greatest leaders are learners. And if I were to ask you this question, what are you learning right now, and who are you learning from? Right? What are you learning? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching? How are you growing yourself? How are you learning right now? And if you answer that question, I don't know, it's time to figure out what you want to learn. What is it that you want to grow in? It might be you want to grow in having conversations that are difficult. There's so many books on having better conversations. You might want to learn on how to love better. You might want to read the 5 Love Languages book. You might want to learn how to be a better leader. Like, there's millions and millions and millions of videos and books and podcasts that you can get for free. So that way you can learn. What are you learning, and who are you learning from? We want to learn from the people that we aspire to be, the people that we see leading in our field or leading in a different field that are just doing it so well with such excellence. We need to learn from these people. Leaders are learners, and I believe that we can learn from everyone. Oftentimes I like to listen to messages from pastors, and I have my favorite pastors, but then there's also some that I listen to that are not my favorite. But I want to encourage you, you can learn from anyone. Never put yourself in a place where you feel you can't learn from somebody. Everyone on this planet has something to offer. Everyone on this planet has something to add, something to give. Don't become so arrogant that you believe someone younger than you, someone less educated than you, someone less experienced than you, someone who's different than you, different gender than you, whatever. Do not get to a place where you feel that you cannot learn something from them. Everyone can teach us something. Whether it's teaching us what not to do or teaching us what to do, we can learn from anyone. So great leaders are always learning. And number 5, the last one is this: great leaders lead with vision. Great leaders are great at seeing the future before anyone else, and great leaders see more than anyone else. This is what John Maxwell, again, the leadership guru, he says, great leaders are great at seeing the future before anyone else, and great leaders see more than anyone else. Do you see where your family is going before anyone else? Do you see what the future could look like if your business were to cease to exist? What if your business were to stop? What if your church was to stop? What would the future look like? Do you see what the future could look like if your church were to expand and have a broader reach? Do you see before anyone, and do you see more than anyone? The greatest leaders see before and they see more. They see more, they see before. They see more than anyone and they see before anyone. Do you see what the future could look like? Our role, our responsibility as leaders is to see more in the future, to have this optimism, to see what God is going to do, to see what our family can do, to see the vacation, to see it before, and then to see more, like bigger vision, grander vision, bigger in the future. And oftentimes, sometimes as leaders, maybe you're the same way, the vision is the easy part. You're like, I got the vision. I know, I see it. Like, I see more, I see before. But oftentimes the hardest part as leaders is not the seeing, it's the doing, it's the sharing. I think sometimes we feel like our vision is going to scare people. We feel like our vision is too big, it's too broad, it's too grand, that it might scare people. And I think our role, what we need to do as leaders, is to have the courage and have the strength to share the vision that we see, to share the future that we see. I think sometimes we're scared of people's reactions to it. But we can't let other people's expectations, we can't let other people's opinions, and we can't let other people's interpretations get in the way of the vision God has placed inside of you for the future. What God has inside of you, what you see, is so beautiful and so amazing. Do not let other people get in the way of what God wants to do. Do not let other people get in the way of what you see. Go and make it happen. See it and do it. See it and make it happen. Our role as leaders, and the greatest leaders, lead with vision. They see it and then they share it. They share it with boldness. They say it with courage. They share it with passion and say, this is where we're going. This is what it's going to look like. Come alongside me and let's go forward. Leaders aren't standing at the back of the room pushing people. They're standing at the front of the room pulling people. We're saying we're going this direction. Great leaders lead with vision. And I believe our responsibility as leaders is to call people higher, to call people deeper, and to call people out of comfort into their calling. As we lead with vision, we bring people into the future with us. Great leaders lead with vision. So the 5 postures of great leaders. Number 1, great leaders have a desire to love first because they know that production comes secondary to caring for people. Number 2, great leaders have a heart to serve. The best way to get the most out of your people, the best way to get the most out of yourself, out of your business, is to serve the people by giving them what they need to succeed. Number 3, great leaders have the ability to encourage. People get better through discipline and encouragement that they can do better and that they can be better. Number 4, great leaders are always learning. If we stop learning, we put a cap on our capabilities. We put a cap and we put a capacity on what we're capable of. We are putting a lid on what we're capable of and who we can lead. We need to always be learning and always be growing. And then number 5 is great leaders lead with vision. Our responsibility as leaders is to call people higher, call people deeper, and call people out of comfort into their calling. If you want to be a great leader to your children, if you want to be a great leader to your boss, if you want to be a great leader to your co-workers, if you want to be a great leader in your church, in your small group, you need to do these things. To be a person that leads and loves first, to be a person who has a heart to serve, to be a person who has the ability to encourage, to be a person that's always learning, to be a person that leads with vision. I believe that if we can master these things, if we can grow in these things, if we can learn, if we can get better at these things, I think we're going to start to realize a deeper and higher potential within us and the ability that we have to bring people with us into the future that God and you are creating. If we can learn to be better as leaders, if we can start to posture ourselves to love, to serve, to encourage, to learn, and to be filled with vision, we are going to create a future that is so beautiful that will outlast us, outlast our lifetime, and it's going to be beautiful. You know, I believe that you can do this, and I believe that we can do this together.
Thank you for joining us today for the Known Podcast. We have new content coming out every Wednesday, so make sure to come back next week for a new episode. If you haven't yet, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Known Podcast and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. See you next week.